This video is brought to you by the EA Game Changer program, which provided me with the opportunity to be flown out to a capture event to record the footage that you'll be seeing in this video. Welcome back, guys. Deuce Douglas here with another Madden 20 Top 5 video for you, and within this video, I'm going to be covering the top 5 draft and scouting tips for franchise mode in Madden 20, and as you progress through franchise mode, you're going to lose players to free agency or retirement, and the easiest and most important process in replacing those players is going to be through the draft. It's not only an important part of building a well-rounded roster, but it's also a crucial part in being able to maintain that well-rounded roster. So today, I'm going to be giving you guys some tips and methods that I personally use to hopefully help you be more prepared before entering the draft so that you can make the most of your selections during the draft. So to start here, we're going to focus on something you'll always want to be aware of when it comes to scouting, and that's where you get your scouting discounts, as well as where you'll be able to earn more scouting points per week. So when cycling through positions while scouting, you're going to notice that one or maybe multiple positions will require only 11, 7, and 3 points to fully scout, as opposed to the normal 15, 10, and 5. So you'll actually be saving 9 points per player that you fully scout from those positions, which may not seem like much, but let's say you scout 10 different players from that position. That's actually going to give you the ability to fully scout an additional 3 players under normal circumstances. And another important thing to note here is that if you're playing as an owner, you'll also have the opportunity to change this during the off season by hiring a different scout, giving you the ability to get discounts at positions where you'd most like to see them. Then if you're playing as a head coach, something that you're going to want to do as soon as you're able to is acquire the Expert Scouting Coach Package. So if you see up in the top right corner, your head coach is going to earn XP for completing goals throughout the season. And if you go to the team tab, then to My Coach, and then go to Spend Coach XP, you'll be taken to this menu where you'll be able to purchase the Expert Scouting Coach Package. And what this is going to do is increase the amount of weekly scouting points you have from the typical 175 and bump that up to 200. And again here, that's not going to seem like a whole lot, but over the course of an entire season, it's going to allow you to fully scout around 15 additional players. And as the saying goes, knowledge is power, and the more you know heading into the draft, the better chance you're going to have at obtaining better players. This next tip is going to focus on how you want to approach scouting, and that's going to be to know your needs. So when you first enter the scouting screen on the left-hand side, you're going to see a position-by-position breakdown of both your offense and your defense, and you're going to get a pretty good idea of what the greatest weaknesses talent-wise are and where you're likely going to want to focus most of your attention when scouting. If you see positions with anything around a C or lower, you're going to want to focus on scouting more early round players at those positions. And then on the flip side, for positions that you already have established starters and good players at, you can focus on scouting players in later rounds at those positions if you even need to scout them at all. However, talent isn't the only thing you want to focus on here. You also want to be aware of where you might be light on numbers due to the exit of pending free agents or retirements. So from the main franchise hub, once again, tab over to team, click my team, and head down to salaries. And then once inside, go to years remaining and press sort. From there, you can go position by position and see whose contract is expiring at the end of the year, as well as players whose age might mean that they are at risk of retiring at the end of the year as well, giving you some hints at where your roster potentially could be light on numbers based on the decisions that you make over the course of the season. This doesn't need to be something that you check week in and week out, but it would make sense to check in on it periodically throughout the season, just so that you don't head into the offseason with only one or no players at a position that you've yet to scout. So with those two things in mind, once you do start scouting with 450 prospects available, the scouting screen can get a little overwhelming, and scouring through that many players to find certain ones that you've liked throughout the process can be tough. So you're going to want to be sure to make use of your draft board. So when you scout a player that you like and feel is worthy of being drafted, press Y or triangle, and you should see a star pop up next to his name. And what that means is that that player is now on your draft board. From the scouting screen, you can now bring up the sorting tabs and head down to your draft board, where you'll find all the players that have been added to that board. From there, you'll have the ability to hold A or X on PlayStation on any players and move them up or down and rank these players in order, with the players that you like and covet the most at the top. Another thing to consider when ordering players on your draft board is their true talent, which you'll see within the green or red diamond next to their picture. That's going to give you some insight into not only their overall rating, but where they're also likely to be taken. So what I like to do is order my draft board by true talent round, so ranking all of the first rounders followed by all of the second rounders and so on. And what this will help do is once you get into the later rounds, players that may have slipped and are good values are still going to be at the top of your draft board, giving you a better opportunity at finding better players later in the draft. And then one last note here is that if you're in an online franchise with other users and for any reason have to simulate a pick or the entire draft, the CPU will use your draft board to determine which players get picked. So rather than having the CPU randomly choose players for you, you'd have the opportunity to place players in the order that you most want them, and given that they are available, the CPU will take the top available player on your draft board. This next tip applies to both scouting and drafting and isn't really a necessity, but can help expedite the roster building process off the field and help get the most out of your players on the field, and that's going to be finding your fits. So with schemes and archetypes added last year, it added a whole new layer to team building, which was that if a player's archetype matched the desired archetype in a coach's scheme, they would receive an additional XP bonus during weekly training, and that is going to help them progress faster than if they weren't a scheme fit. And scheme fits are denoted by a purple puzzle piece icon that you'll see on a player's scouting card, and the decision to prioritize them should vary by position. For a position like quarterback, where performance on the field isn't going to be as affected by having a non-scheme fit, you don't really have to worry about it, but you will be sacrificing that weekly XP boost. However, on defense, for something like 4-3 defensive ends and 3-4 outside linebackers, you're definitely going to want to prioritize scheme fits over non there due to the adverse effects it could have on the performance of your defense. For example, if you put a speed or power rushing outside linebacker in a 4-3 scheme, they're going to spend a lot less time rushing the passer, which is their strength, and more time in coverage on running backs and tight ends, where they'll be at a severe disadvantage due to their poor coverage skills. And then the last tip I can offer is to try and always be conscious of the value that you're getting with your picks. In the first round, you should always be looking to get an immediate starter, or at least players that are going to significantly contribute to your team right away. In the second round, pretty much the same logic is going to apply, but with a little bit more leniency in that the player doesn't need to start right away, but you should still be looking to get players that have that expectation to start for you either now or in the near future with picks in those first two rounds. In the third round, that leniency continues, and while you'd obviously like to get starters, it's going to be a bit harder to consistently find them once you get past those first two rounds. So this might be an area where you try to find players that can specialize in roles that contribute immediately, such as the slot receiver or nickelback, with the hope that in a few years they progress into full-time starters. Beyond that though, and in those 4th through 7th rounds is when you're going to start to see diminishing returns. These rounds are good opportunities to take chances on players that may have slipped in the draft and may not necessarily be a need, but would possibly present a much greater value than a player at a position of need would. But I think that just about covers everything. Hopefully you guys found one or more of these tips useful and will be able to use them in your upcoming Madden 20 franchise. If you have any other tips that you use and think people should know about, go ahead and leave those down in the comments below to help out those wanting to learn even more. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and as always, thanks for watching.